Well. Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watts UK99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. Quick reminder, if you enjoy the channel, please like and subscribe. If you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate everybody's support. So let's talk a little bit of MLB free agency. It's that typical, very slow starting free agency period that baseball seems to have. So I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about pitching, because even though 95% of the talk is about Juan Soto and Pete Alonso from a Mets fan's perspective, pitching is where they really need to build up their depth. I've said this before. They don't have a lot of starting pitching under contract next season. Really, we're looking at David Peterson, Tyler McGill, Kodai Senga, and that's about it. And also behind Edwin Diaz in the bullpen, how much do you really trust there? Do you really have a setup man there? So I wanted to come on here and talk about some of the sleeper pitchers that might be out there on the market. So I'm not going to be focusing on the Corbin Burns and the Max Frieds and the Blake Snells in the rotation. I don't expect the Mets to sign Tanner Scott right now. But I do have a few pitchers, both starting pitchers and relief pitchers, that the Mets might want to look into. So let's start with the starting pitchers. I'm going to start with Nick Pivetta. Now, Pivetta is an option who stands out as sort of a breakout candidate. His ERA last year, pretty average, 4.14 ERA in 145 innings for Boston. But there were some very encouraging signs. I'll give you two of them. He strikes batters out. He had a near 29% strikeout rate. That puts him in the 88th percentile in baseball, and his walk rate seems to be getting better with time. It was a 6.1% walk rate. That puts him in the 80th percentile in MLB as well. He basically has 5 pitches. His fastball runs in the mid-90s. It's got some of that, they call it induced vertical break. Basically what that means is the ball does go up a little bit, so it has that rise sort of effect. You don't see that too often. He also throws a sweeper, a curve, a cutter, and a slider. Another selling point, Pivetta is durable. He hasn't had an injured list in his MLB career until this past April. Had a flexor strain in his elbow, sidelined him for about a month, but he returned in early May and pitched the rest of the season. He has pitched 130 innings or more in each of his 6 years in the majors. Now, on the negative end, he does allow home runs. Okay, he's always seems to be near the top of the league in allowing hard contact. So he can get squared up pretty well. That's a bit of a concern. He's never had an ERA below 4 in a season. Pretty much in every year in the last 4 years, his ERA is in the low 4s, in that 4 to 4.5 range. It was a little surprising, though, that the Red Sox chose to give him a qualifying offer, that 1 year, $20 to $21 million. Without one, he could have been in line to get maybe a 3-year contract. And, of course, when you sign a pitcher or a player with a qualifying offer, you're now forced to give up some draft compensation. That could hurt Pivetta's market. That is a concern as well. So it might be a situation where he might accept a 1-year deal and return to the market next year. The reason is you cannot offer a qualifying offer to a player 2 seasons in a row. So Pivetta, something worth exploring. If it wasn't for that qualifying offer, I'd be a little bit more excited about it. Now, my second pitcher I want to mention is Walker Buehler of the Los Angeles Dodgers, a pitcher that we know well. It's hard to expect the ace-level performance that he showed back in 2021. He had a 2.47 ERA that year, finished 4th in the Cy Young voting. Now, 2024 couldn't have gone much rougher for him. He returned from the second Tommy John surgery of his career, made 16 starts, and his ERA was 5.38 in just over 75 innings. Even worse, he allowed nearly 2 home runs per 9 innings, struck out 18.6% of batters faced, and his 8.2% swinging strike rate, that was 3 points lower than his career average. So he was not getting swings and misses, not good. But we know his fortunes changed in October. Even though he didn't pitch well against San Diego in the NLDS, he pitched consecutive scoreless pitch appearances with 11 strikeouts over 9 frames against the Mets and the Yankees. Of course, he closed out the World Series by striking out Alex Verdugo. Buehler, to me, is the top reclamation project in this year's rotation group. The Mets did this last year. They took on Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, you could include him in that situation as well. This would be the next example. And with the pitching labs, the pitching coaching, and all this that they have, I think one of the things David Stearns likes to do is find pitchers who have shown a history of success but are coming off a down year and get them right. You know, it's not always going to work every single time, but I think with Buehler, there's definitely some potential. The third starting pitcher I want to talk about is Matthew Boyd. Now, with Boyd, he has 3 pitches, a 4-seam fastball that'll hit about 92, 93, a changeup, and a slider. He looked very good in Cleveland last year, started 8 games, pitched to a 2.72 ERA and a 27.7% strikeout rate, just a 7.8% walk rate in 39 2/3 innings. And then in the postseason, pitched another 12 innings, allowed 1 run, 14 strikeouts to 6 walks. Pretty good stuff. So he has had a bit of an injury history. He's coming off Tommy John surgery in June of 2023. So he was really just getting healthy again towards the end of the season. Pitched those 8 games for Cleveland. In 2021, he also needed flexor tendon surgery, and he missed a lot of time from that as well. So with those 2 injuries, Boyd has not topped 88 innings in a season since 2019. And his ERA, it's about 4.85, not great, but there's reason to believe he's going to draw substantial interest. The strikeout and walk rates are really, really good. The issue, again, is home runs. That's the real reason for the high ERA. But when he's on, he's really, really good. This is sort of a back-of-the-rotation type of starter who could sign a 1 to 2 year deal as he tries to rebuild his value. So, again, somebody who has shown some raw ability, but maybe hasn't quite put it all together yet. But I thought he was Cleveland's best pitcher in the playoffs. I really did. So I think that's something that people are going to remember and why he's going to have a market. Now, let's go over to a couple of relievers as well. Some of these names will be familiar. David Robertson. Now, he's going to turn 40 years old in April, but by watching him pitch, you wouldn't think so. You know, it's amazing to think he was out of baseball for really 3 years because he's come all the way back as a high-value, reliable arm. He was really good with the Mets in 2023 before struggling following the trade to the Marlins. But then in 72 innings with Texas this past year, he turned in a flat ERA of 3 while punching out 33% of his opponents, a 9.1% walk rate. His cutter is his signature pitch, and it averaged 93-plus miles per hour, and that is the hardest he has thrown in his 16-year career. And again, with Robertson being 40 years old, you really only have to sign a 1-year deal. So that's something worth looking at. The second one is Joseleclerc. This one's got me interested. Now, when he came up for Texas, he looked like he was going to become one of the best relievers in baseball. The Rangers gave him a 6-year deal before the 2019 year. Sometimes he closed, but most of the time he found himself in a setup role. He really had trouble putting it together night in, night out. In 2024, wasn't great. Had a 4.32 ERA in 66 innings of work. That came along with what's called an expected ERA of 3.57. So that tells you he had some bad luck or, soft contact that just found the hole in the infield, that kind of a thing. And he generated swings and misses at a top level in the 96th percentile in whiff rate. And he doesn't allow hard hit balls. He has a mid-90s fastball, low to mid-80s slider, can mix up a cutter, a change, a sinker. This sounds like the kind of pitcher I would want to bring in as that 8th inning man in front of Edwin Diaz. So Joseleclerc is my second reliever. Number 3 is Tommykahnle. Now, the ex-Yankee has dealt with health issues in his career, but when he pitches, he's good. He logged a 2.90 ERA with a 30.9% strikeout rate. And in 2024, he pitched 42 innings, missed some time with shoulder inflammation, and his fastball averaged about 94 miles an hour, which is a career low. So it's a tough one, but he does get swings and misses still, despite the loss of velocity. So the idea is this is somebody who knows how to pitch, not just throw hard. So I think Kahnle's worth looking at too. Now, I wanted to look with my last 2 pitchers. I wanted to look at 2 lefty relievers because God knows the Mets need that. When Brooks really went down for the year with Tommy John surgery, the Mets never truly replaced him, and that hurt as the year went on. It was Alex Young. It was Danny Young. Yeah, they tried to bring in a few other people, but it just didn't work out. So the first one I'm going to mention is A.J. Minter, most recently of the Atlanta Braves. He had a pretty good run from 2021 to 2023, pitched 187 innings, 3.13 ERA, 31% strikeout rate, 7.4% walk rate, 15 saves, and 78 holds for Atlanta in that time. The thing is, he's not going into free agency with his value at its highest level. He went on the injured list a couple of times in 2024. He had inflammation in his left hip. He went surgery in the middle of August, and he spent the last couple of weeks in the season on the injured list. So this does create some questions going into 2025. But as of now, there's no signs that that injury is going to carry over into 2025. So we'll see what winds up happening there. But you know what? When he pitches, he's a lefty, mid-90s velocity on his fastball, and he has a good history of being very productive when healthy. So got to find out about that hip issue, but I would look at A.J. Minter. And the last one, I feel like this is a pitcher that Met fans have been looking at for, 5 years. Andrewchafin. So Chafin has been rumored to go to the Mets forever. He posted a 3.16 ERA with Detroit this year before being traded to Texas. Wasn't quite as good there, but he mostly throws a slider about 46% of the time and a sinker 38% of the time. He relies on getting hitters to chase and getting weak contact. I also like that he's not just a left-handed specialist. With the 3-batter minimum rule, it really doesn't make sense to have a lot of lefties who are only going to get left-handed hitters out because you're going to be facing a righty at some point. And he has shown the ability to get both lefties and righties out. And I think he's only going to require a 1-year deal. He's always seemed find a way to get a 2-year deal. That's the interesting thing here. But if the Mets were to offer maybe a year and an option, maybe something like that would work. But, the Mets don't have a ton of pitchers that they can really, really count on going into this season in the bullpen or in the rotation. So I'm not looking for a whole lot of very exciting moves. Maybe one big starter, like trading for a Garrett Crochet, for instance, signing one of Burns, Snell, or Fried. That would be fine, bringing back a Sean Manaea. But they're going to have to bring in quite a few pitchers because we've seen it takes 8 or 9 starters to get through a season. And don't even get me started on how many relievers it takes. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching this video. Join me Wednesday night at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking a whole lot of Jets and what else is going on in the world of New York sports. I plan on doing a bit of yelling, so we shall see what happens. But everybody, thanks very much for watching again, and I'll see you right back here with more content from you-know-where, the Wicker Chair.